What's good, YouTube? American RX at it again. Shout out to subscribers, shout out to the viewers. Thank you very much. Um, for this evening, I'll be making a presentation for about the Pioneer Fund and what could possibly be funding all these movements, these organizations that was purposely put out here to mislead Indians, to distract you from what we should be really doing, which is studying law, learning how to address these foreigners over here diplomatically. And yeah, so this is also a part of what's back in the whole eugenics movement. This is the funding for it, and I'm just going to do a little bit of breakdown on what it's really about. So let's get to it. Pioneer Fund started in 1937 by textile magnate Wycliffe Draper. The Pioneer Fund's original mandate was to pursue race betterment by promoting the genetic stock of those deemed to be descended predominantly from white persons. So we all know what white persons is. A white person is a foreign immigrant, okay? In law, that's what it means. Who settled in the original 13 states prior to the adoption of the Constitution. Okay? So white persons doesn't necessarily mean somebody who has so-called pale complexion, okay? White person could be any foreigner, okay? Today, it still funds studies of race and intelligence as well as eugenics, the science of breeding superior human beings that was discredited by various Nazi atrocities. So in other words, these people are terrorists, right? And they are allowed to be funding terrorist organizations, domestic terrorism, right, to terrorize the Indians, okay? To mislead, miseducate, and terrorize us on our own land, okay? And put in place draconian policies, all right? The Pioneer Fund has supported many of the leading Anglo-American race scientists of the last several decades, as well as anti-immigration groups such as Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR, okay? So they make their immigration policies and sanction our people on the island, okay? Right? Because they don't want us to so-called come here and correspond with our brothers and sisters here, all right? So they put up imaginary borders, all right? In its own words, race realists view as natural phenomenon to observe, study, and explain. They believe that the human race is a valid biological concept. The researchers associate the pioneer tend to be race realist, okay? And also, what you gotta know, the water pluckers, right? All these people, your Margaret Sanger, your Bill Gates, all of them is connected to this eugenics movement, all right? Pioneer Fund founder Wycliffe Draper's interests, such as it was in the repatriation of Black Americans to Africa. All right, so what you have now, Ghana, back to Ghana. So there you go. They're the ones who, in my opinion, are funding the whole Ghana, back to Ghana situation, because they funded the Liberia situation as well, all right? Movement was quite separate from a Pioneer Fund. Further, the movement had a long history of support, and from 1917 to 1923 was popular among a great many African American. Harry Ware, president of Pioneer from 1958 to 2002, who knew Draper well, noted that Draper's main interest was in black led, okay? Okay, so your Black Lives Matter, okay? These are what? These are the fund. These are this neo-Nazi group is funding the Black Lives Matter, the Pan-African movement, all right? To miseducate your children, to lead you, ship you down the river, okay? So you're Ghana, return of the year. This is what's funding it, okay? Pioneer Fund website defending the racial views of its founder. The idea that a few crypto-Nazi Anglo-Americans dominated the eugenics movement is ludicrous and wrong. In the early 20th century, eugenics laws were enacted in Denmark, Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, Italy, Canada, Australia, and Latin America. So in Latin America, the so-called it's really America altogether, but South America, right? This is where you have the blancamiento. Okay, blancamiento is what they call racial whitening. That's all a part of the eugenics thing. Okay. The first sterilization law in the U.S. was passed in Indiana in 1907. By 1917, 15 more states had enacted laws that applied to socially inadequate people, mentally defectives, and others. However, harshly today, we may judge support for our policies, such as sterilization of those deemed to be unfit, prohibition of racial intermarriage, and severe restrictions on immigration. Okay, so this is why they create the green cards, right? IBM was the one who created the punch card system, and that's why you get the whole what you call the real ID. That's what the real ID is about, right? The real ID is connected to this neo-Nazi eugenics movement. All right, so don't get it twisted. All right, it's just same old game with new tricks. Okay, it is wrong to equate these ideals with Nazism, gas chambers, and some of the worst mass murders, war crimes, and crimes against humanity ever committed. So these people are terrorists. Okay. Background: the Pioneer Fund original endowment came from the Wycliffe Draper, scion of old stock Protestant gentry, living in what one historian described as a quasi-feudal manor house. Draper was raised in Hopedale, Mass, a company town built by his family after losing a 4-month union battle with the far-left international workers of the world. Draper became a man obsessively seeking a way to restore the old order abandoned by the political mainstream after World War II. Draper turned more and more to those academics who were still dedicated to race science and eugenics. Most prominently, in the early years, Henry Garrett. During the 1950s and the 1960s, Garrett helped distribute pioneer grants and was one of the founders of the International Association for Advancement of Eugenics and Ethnology. Okay, in 1959, the IAAEE brought together academic defenders of segregation in the United States and apartheid in South Africa. Okay, the Pioneer Fund also supported a variety of institutions working to legitimize race science, including the IAAWE and the journal Mankind Quarterly, okay, which today is published by a longtime eugenicist, anti-Semite, and Pioneer Grant recipient Roger Pearson. Okay, so these people are still in positions, powerful positions to make decisions. Okay, so let's do a little breakdown on who Roger Pearson is. Roger Pearson, retired British anthropologist and purveyor of extreme racist and anti-Semitic ideas. Over the course of his career, Pearson has been a fierce defender of Aryan racial superiority and has maintained ties to numerous Nazi and neo-Nazi groups and individuals, promoting and publishing their theories in pseudo academic journals like Mankind Quarterly, which Pearson has run since 1978. Okay, so born 1927, I guess he's still alive. Maybe he's not, but these are the people who are in those positions, high positions, right? In politics, they influence the politics here, right? And all over the world. Many of those involved with the fund early on, including its first president, Harry H. Lawlin, Laughlin or Lawlin, had contacts with many of the Nazi scientists whose work provided the conceptual template for Hitler's aspiration toward racial hygiene in Germany. According to an article in Albany Law Review in 1960s, according to William H. Tucker, scholarly book, The Funding of Scientific Racism, many board members and recipients of pioneer grants worked to block the civil rights movement. Okay? Arthur Jensen, an educational psychologist focusing on race since 1966, got more than $1 million in pioneer grants over 3 decades in his famous 1969 attack on Head Start, the early education program that aims to help poor children. Okay, so they attack the programs in place that's there to help children who are, you know, who doesn't have the parents doesn't have the means to provide for them. Okay, so these people are domestic terrorists. Jensen wrote in the prestigious Harvard Education Review that the problem with black children was that they had an average IQ of only 85, number amount of social engineering, okay, 85, no amount of social engineering, because that's what they do. Everything is engineered over here. It's not real. It's all it's artificial, okay, to improve that performance. He claimed, adding that eugenic foresight was the only solution. Okay, Roger Pearson, whose Institute for the Study of Man has been one of the top Pioneer Fund beneficiaries over the past 20 years, may provide the clearest indication of the kind of extremists supported by the fund. Pearson came to the United States in the mid-1960s to join Willis Carto, founder of Anti-Semitic Liberty Lobby, in 1965. Pearson became editor of Western Destiny, magazine established by Carto and dedicated to spreading extreme right ideology. Okay, so another thing I want to share with you guys, you also have what's called a Black Caucus, right? When I was doing the kneeling in the Kentucky lot, the lady said something about the Black Caucus, right? You gotta pay attention to who these people are, okay? Pay close attention. I'm gonna show you that American is a made-up term, right? Only a recent made-up term, and they're shipping you down the river, okay? So keep calling yourself that and see what's gonna happen. African American is an adjective, right? There are isolated instances from the late 18th and early 19th centuries, okay? Isolated times, right? But the modern use is a reinvention first attested in 1969. That's right after the Civil Rights Movement, right? When Martin Luther said he marched Indians. They march Indian, but they turn you into African American right after that, in reference to the African American Teachers Association. Okay, so the African American Teachers Association has a lot to do with it too, which became the preferred term. So it became the preferred term for U.S. blacks. So that's paper genocide, people. Okay. See African American reports Afro-American is now very commonly used in the Negro press. Okay, so they killed you on paper. Not only they do eugenics on you, they also killed you on paper, and it's right here, right? I'm not hiding. The information is right here. Founder of the Anti-Semitic Lobby in 1965, Pearson became editor of Western Destiny, a magazine established by Carter and dedicated to spreading extreme right ideology using pseudonyms. Stephen Langton. He then became editor of the New Patriot, a short-lived magazine published in 1966 and 1967 to conduct a responsible but penetrating inquiry into every aspect of the Jewish question. Its articles carried such titles as Zionist, okay, and Plot Against South Africa, Early Jews, and the Rise of Jewish Money Power. So the original Jews were dark-skinned people, okay, and Swindlers of the Crematorium. Pioneer support for all groups linked to Pearson between 1975 and 1996 amounted to more than $1 million, nearly 10% of total Pioneer grants during that period. In recent decades, Pioneer Fund has supported most American and British race scientists, including a large number of those cited in Bell Curve widely. Right? So always follow the money, people. these movements, follow the money.